When I was younger, I followed my parents and attended meetings out of obligation.
What do you mean by out of obligation? What made you pursue counselling as a career? I bet the things you do are very different from mine.
So most of the youth I handle actually have a lot of pent-up frustrations due to the circumstances that they are in.
I will realize that the students' anxiousness comes from the uncertainty about their future. Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of the Way of Youth podcast. My name is Daryl, and I'll be your host for this episode. The Way of Youth is a podcast series that celebrates the journeys of Soka Gakkai Singapore Youth Division. It is one of the highlights to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the founding Soka Gakkai International, SGI for short. Last episode, we had Eugene who shared how he developed an interest in sustainability through SGI President Dr. Daisaku Ikeda's peace proposal. Today, we have Dawn with us to share a story.
Hi everyone.
Okay, Dawn, let's first get to know you. Could you give us a quick introduction to yourself and how you started practicing Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism?
So hi everyone, I'm Dawn. I grew up in a family that practices Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism. When I was younger, I followed my parents and attended meetings out of obligation.
What do you mean by out of obligation?
So basically, I just followed my parents whenever they asked me to attend meetings. Yeah. But what really sparked my own faith journey was my days in the student division, which is a specific division in Soka Gakkai Singapore made up of tertiary school students. It was then that I gained a deeper understanding about Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism and how it can empower my life.
Oh, what do you do in SD?
So basically, I made a lot of friends during the entire period, and I also studied a lot more deeply into the Buddhism. Yeah, so I also participated in cultural activities like NDP and Chingay, which prompted me to practice more seriously, enabling me to create the utmost value as I strove to my very best in the various roles and responsibilities I had.
Well, thanks Dawn for the quick introduction. For today's podcast, we want to focus on how youth in Soka Gakkai Singapore are making a contribution to society. Understand that you are currently working as a full-time counsellor. Well, first question, what made you pursue counselling as a career?
So you wouldn't have guessed it lah, but actually it's because I studied literature in secondary school, and I found myself intrigued by books related to mental health, and since then I just wanted to pursue psychology.
Wow, you started with a book.
Yeah, so eventually I went to uni and did psychology, and then after that interned at a government agency where I could put psychology into practice. Yeah, so the culture there was very warm and nurturing, and I decided to apply for a permanent position after I graduated. And it's been close to 10 years.
Wow, 10 years. That's a really long time. In that case, you know what? You are my senior then. I recently reached my 1-year mark as a counsellor in a school.
Congrats. Then actually, what were you doing previously?
You might be surprised, but I was actually a mechanical engineer for 11 years. I enjoyed technical design and, well, it gave me job satisfaction, but I do have a passion working with the youth. After I completed my part-time degree in 2014, I began volunteering for the less privileged students in my free time. It was in Soka Gakkai Singapore that I had the opportunity to take up a role as a future division IC to take care and foster our secondary school students in their faith and practice. Well, while the engineering work matches my strength and interests, the interaction with the secondary school students in SGS really triggered this greater sense of purpose in me. That's when I came across this education and career guidance counsellor role. I applied it for a few times and I was even shortlisted for an interview in 2019. However, I never got past the interview stage then. The rejection was painful for sure, but I did not give up. I continued to chant and pray that I could realize this dream of mine. So last February, I mustered the courage to apply again and finally got the offer. Well, that was after 3 attempts,
Wow, not bad. You came a really long way.
Well, I think that's really the many years of training as an IC in the future division. The role gave me the experience of interacting with the students. Probably it's that's why they realized that I could relate to the students better, that they felt there was a good fit for the role.
It was probably your never giving up spirit as well. But actually, what do you do as a career guidance counsellor?
Well, my current role focuses on supporting the students' education needs like subject combination choice, university, program decision making, preparing for interviews and writing personal statements. I also hold talks and learning journeys to widen the students' perspective of the world of work. So Dawn, you mentioned that you are counselling at-risk youth. I bet the things you do are very different from mine.
It's kind of same but different. So we are both working with youth, but while you're working with students on their future aspirations, my role at work is to make sure that the youth I'm counselling do not reoffend. So many times it's about helping them understand their actions and their reasons for offending, and then work on things with them from there on to ensure that they do not reoffend.
Well, I guess this is the reason why both of us are featured in the same podcast together. Well, the producers told me that since both of us are working different youth groups as counselors, they've prepared a question bowl for us. Right? You will take turns speaking one piece of paper, and both of us will then answer the question on the piece of paper. Sounds good, Dot?
Sure. So the question is, what is the most challenging part of your work?
Yeah, I guess dealing with at-risk youth must be a tough challenge. I suppose you will often need to engage these youths over repeated sessions.
You can say so. So actually, I do multiple counseling sessions with most of them. So most of the youth I handle actually have a lot of pent-up frustrations due to the circumstances that they are in. So I often have to deal with negative emotions and backlash from them, which can be difficult to manage during the counseling session. And naturally, you expect their outbursts to also affect my own emotions, which then makes me feel very drained. So I guess I would say managing emotions would be the most challenging part of my work.
I see. So just curious, typically how do you deal with such situations?
Good question. So this was something I kind of learned over time, being able to take a step back and realizing that I shouldn't take their anger or outbursts personally. Yeah, so it's about developing empathy, which is something that I learned really in this Buddhism as well. Yeah, so basically I understand that their outbursts are not directed towards me personally. So with this realization, I make a conscious effort to chant before engaging the youths and pray that I can connect with them and awaken their Buddhahood, which is the ultimate goodness in them. So whenever possible, I also make it a point to elicit the youth's strength or point out to them that they do have their own unique strengths, even if they do not see it. So it's also here that I'm reminded of one of the 7 parables in the Lotus Sutra. So the parable of 3 kinds of medicinal herbs and 2 kinds of trees, which describes how rain falls impartially on all vegetation, enabling each plant to flower and bear fruit in its own unique fashion. So through chanting to see the Buddhahood in them, I'm able to treasure each person and believe in their limitless potential.
I totally agree with you on the part where believing in the Buddhahood of every individual. But my situation is quite different from yours. One thing I didn't realize until I started this counselor role was that unlike a teacher who sees their students throughout the year, I only see the students once and only for 1 hour each session. So a small number comes back for a second session, but rarely a third session. Faced with such a short window of opportunity for interaction, right? I'm always faced with the challenge of making the best out of every opportunity to inspire each individual. Well, this experience reminded of how SGI President Daisaku Ikeda, whom we affectionately called as Ikeda Sensei, poured all his energy into encouraging each individual he came across, knowing that he may not get the chance to meet them again. Ikeda Sensei once said to the future division, "You are the hope of humanity. You are the hope of the future. Never forget that." Greatly moved by Sensei's hope for the future division, I tell myself that I must cherish and prepare better for each counseling sessions so that I'm able to give my best to guide and inspire the students to the fullest. Okay, now it's my turn to pick the second question.
Sure.
So what is the proudest moment in your counseling career? Maybe Dawn, you go first since 10 years in the field must have given you a lot of stories.
Sure, okay. So basically, I remember there was this one individual who was very difficult to handle. So back then, he created a lot of trouble for everyone. So when I heard that he was assigned to me, you can imagine how dumbfounded I was lah. Yeah, so but later on, when he learned that his father was actually not doing very well, he confided in me. And I took the opportunity to really encourage him. And that was when he realized that he must change for the better for his own father lah. Yeah, so from that point onwards, his attitude really changed. He took the initiative to apologize to others. And whenever he got emotionally triggered, he would actually self-regulate instead of resorting to violence.
Wow, that sounds really unreal. The way you said it is almost like a 180-degree change in attitude.
Definitely. Yeah, so being a counselor as well, I was pleasantly surprised and at the same time very inspired by his transformation. So this individual actually proved to me that it was possible for people to change, even if it took some time. So when he thanked me for not giving up on him, I was extremely touched. And at that point, it reminded me of Nichiren Daishonin's words, changing poison into medicine, where we challenge ourselves to overcome difficulties in life through our Buddhist practice and create the utmost value out of it.
Wow, thanks for sharing this, Dot. I have similar rewarding experiences as well. For me, whenever students come to my office, right, their faces are full of worry and anxiety. So as I chat with them, I will realize that the students' anxiousness comes from the uncertainty about their future. So through the session, I will work together with the students to gain better awareness of their values and career goals. Once students gain better clarity, I could tell that their expression changes and I could observe a small hop in their stride when they leave my office. Oh, these are little moments that give me motivation in my work.
Yeah. So seeing actually our work making a difference to people's life really brings us a lot of joy and satisfaction. But unfortunately, it's not always that smooth sailing. So I also face situations where the individuals I counsel ended up returning to us. And whenever I heard of such cases, I often question myself if it's because of me, if I didn't do enough. So this affected me a lot during the earlier days of my career. So I remember that there was once where I got a below average performance grade as well, which further deepened my self-doubt.
Yep, I can imagine the self-doubt when things are going south. The ups and downs of our emotions are in the line of our work.
But it was also during these down moments that I made more effort to chant and reflected deeply on my own actions. So this took some time, but over the years, I came to the realization that actually many different factors that could affect an individual's change. And it was more important that I had done my very best at that point in time with the individual. So I remember this guidance by Ikeda Sensei, which encouraged me, and it says, even if things don't unfold the way you expected, don't be disheartened or give up. So one who continues to advance will win in the end.
Well, after hearing your experience, I feel there is still so much I can learn in terms of handling emotions, persevering, and extending our utmost regardless of our circumstances. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Why not, Dawn? You go ahead and pick one more.
Sure. So the third question is, what is the most rewarding part of your work? But Daryl, just curious to hear from you since you're also 1 year into this role. So what rewards you the most in this line of counseling?
I suppose we are in a position to create a change in people's lives through words of encouragement and affirmation that he or she has the innate ability to create a positive change in the environment by first changing ourselves. I think this is the most rewarding part of being a counselor.
Definitely. But in order to see changes in others, we ourselves have to do our own human revolution, which also means inner transformation, where we strive to change our lives for the better. Interestingly, I have been told before that my youth can tell actually whether I'm being sincere towards them. So it's really important for me to bring forth wisdom and genuine compassion whenever I engage them. As I shared previously, I also need to maintain a high life condition to not let my own emotions take over me in the heat of the moment. And I strive to do that through my daily practice of faith. I guess one important lesson I learned through my own work is actually what my youth want or value are actually no different from what everyone wants. So simple things like happiness, and actually my mission is to help them realize the importance of using legitimate ways to actually strive for their goals and desire.
Sounds like you have learned a lot from that. And is that the reward you get from your engagement with that?
Definitely. Yeah, I also realized that my life has been pretty sheltered after seeing youth going through difficulties I would never have imagined. And this prompted me to be more grateful, and I try to make it a point to actually express my appreciation to those around me.
Yes, I can resonate with you that being a counselor keeps you constantly reflecting and being appreciative towards life. I'm sure there are counselors and inspiring counselors in our listeners out there. Dawn, would you like to share some words to encourage our fellow counselors?
Okay, so I think Ikeda Sensei actually once said, the way to build a glorious record of success is to continue to work with dedication, not wasting a moment. Though each individual step may be small, when accumulated, they form a great advance. So small actions can actually make a very big impact on others. So while not all cases may actually turn out well every single time, for those youths who have changed for the better, I hope that we as counselors have played a small part in making that happen. Yeah. Another learning point I had is that after working for so long, it's actually very easy to actually fall into the trap of viewing individuals as the same because of their similar circumstances or backgrounds. So I also strive to remind myself not to fall into the trap of generalizing and to always recognize that every individual is unique and are more than just people with problems. Yeah, so this also reminds me to treasure each individual and to connect with them just as they are.
Well, great advice, Dawn. Thanks so much for your wonderful sharing in today's episode of The Way of Youth. One final question before we wrap up today's podcast. As you know, Soka Gakkai International is celebrating our 50th year milestone this year. What does this SGI 50 milestone mean to you?
So it's been 50 years of working towards building peace, culture, and education. So bring back to my earlier point on small actions but having big impact. Some may actually wonder if our efforts are effective. But I really hope that more will come to recognize that changes in one individual can eventually lead to changes in the society, which is the very practice of human revolution taught in Nichiren Buddhism. And that is actually the ripple effect of peace that we're trying to work towards. So I guess for myself, I really hope to continue building and believing in everyone's potential for change, whenever and wherever that may be. Just like our faith comrades we have in 192 countries, each playing their part to create a better world for humanity.
Well, thank you, Dawn, and you have been a great inspiration today. And thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned. and catch the next episode of
The Way of You. Bye bye.